being fed, really.
We are TFR.
My faith in destiny is all I need to prevail.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome. We are broadcasting live from the mothership. You are tuned in and listening to Starseed Energy Radio with your host, Jonah Bolt. Starseed Energy Radio, where you can always tune in to hear the colors and see the music. Starseed Energy Radio goes live in 3, 2, 1.
With that, we're going to get the show started with the daily download. We have two awesome guests for you on the show today. We have Edward Twitchall Hall III. He's going to be coming on, giving us some updates on some amazing projects and initiatives that he is part of, as well as we have Ryan Matthew Dernick, also going to be doing the daily download, and we're going to be covering the latest news and updates with that. But before we get started with the daily download, we're going to go into our daily quote. We go over the daily quotes to help motivate people for the day, and of course, start your day off with something positive and something to think about. So this quote goes a little something like this. In my country, we call it corruption. In America, you call it lobbying, but it's the same thing. That quote, Robert Reich. And that is true on so many levels. I hate to say it, but it's true. Lobbyists do control the way things are run, the way laws are passed, the way things are handled in Washington. Lobbyists are some of the wealthiest people in the world. And I know that, Ryan, you can attest to that. Good morning, Ryan. How are you today?
Good morning, Justin. I can attest to that.
Yes, you know how these lobbyists work. They get paid by both sides to change the laws.
Exactly. It's a win-win situation.
Can you give us a little background, Ryan, on what you know about lobbyists and lobbying before we get started with the daily download?
Certainly. We won't go into lobbying and how lobbying goes in Congress. What you do is you basically talk to both sides. So, for instance, an example, in the House of Representatives, you'll have the lobbyists talking to the Democratic representatives, and then those same lobbyists trying to push a bill for Merck Pharmaceuticals to get a new experimental drug pushed through. Then they'll also talk to the other side, and so it's a bipartisan issue. Basically, it means that they override the natural fundamental laws of what is really, in all intents and purposes, in my perspective, is a democracy, because they basically get the both parties in their pockets, literally, by giving them funding, contributions, you will, where they will then give back, and they basically be able to follow through on what they promised, making that deal or arrangement with the lobbyists. So lobbyists basically mostly have legal backgrounds, and so they're very smart in their litigious manners, but they're very manipulative in the sense that they're only trying to achieve and increase the bottom line for anything from pharmaceutical companies to such companies as we've been talking about previously, like Monsanto, in regards to the DARK Act, which is just gotten through Congress, is getting through Congress. And what does the DARK Act do? The DARK Act basically allows no labeling by supermarkets or distributors of goods and of foods and produce to say whether or not that food is genetically modified, whether that food is organic. So basically now, as the old saying goes, caveat emptor, let the buyer beware. The buyer is clueless. And the more clueless you are, the more unconscious you are. The more
and I just want to add to that as well, Ryan, that now we see that there's cloned meat being sold, there's cloned eggs being sold, there's cloned cheese being sold. People in Publix and Whole Foods can be buying meat that is totally cloned, and by law, they don't have to label it. It's insane.
Well, not only that, in regards to cloning, you have just a couple years ago, they had it where they cross-bred a goat to have their lactation or milk came out. It would be a Kevlar-like spider web that you could use for defense contractors to make even more impervious bulletproof vests. So these are just some of the very nefarious or evil kind of inventions that come in line with cloning. And let's not even forget, cloning can also be the way to what? Causing a super pandemic or a virus contagion to get out into the general population. So cloning is yes, all intents and purposes, playing God, and it's not something new, unfortunately. This has been going on for quite some time. People think, oh, cloning has been going on for a short period of time.
Eugenics and cloning, that stuff goes back to Hitler, to even before that, where the elites have been trying for many, many years to crossbreed and create the superhuman. But before we even get into that, let's jump into the daily download, Ryan, and let's get started with what is happening around the planet Mother Gaia, space weather. Give us a download, please.
Most definitely. Well, in regards to solar activity is very low. There are no sunspots actively flaring still, and the sun's X-ray output is, and so NOAA forecasters have the odds of a strong flare today at less than 1%. So other than that, there's nothing else going on. But in more immediate things in regards to our solar system, the Earth isn't the only planet they've just revelated with blue skies. Pluto has them too. The first color images of Pluto's atmosphere were beamed back to Earth by NASA's New Horizons spacecraft just last week. And the sky literally looks like home. The New Horizons took pictures just after it sped by Pluto on July 4th over the summer, or 14th, I'm sorry. And the spacecraft cameras were looking back at Pluto's night side on the sunlight-illuminated fringe and literally showed that they actually have an atmosphere, which is basically, ever since that, has been turning astronomy on its head as what we thought when we thought of the Kuiper Belt, thinking, oh, Pluto is a dwarf planet. It shouldn't even be called a planet. But lo and behold, it actually has an atmosphere and has water on it in the form of frozen ice. So these are just some of the many things that we're realizing in our own backyard, solar system, so to speak. But now, seismically on Earth, right now, we had a 4.7 magnitude earthquake, 44 kilometers south of Uluwatu, Indonesia, a 4.8 magnitude earthquake, 40 kilometers west-southwest of Amitiganak Island in Alaska, a 4.5 magnitude earthquake, 155 kilometers east of Miyako, Japan, a 4.5 magnitude earthquake, 54 kilometers south-southeast of Nikoloski, Alaska, a 4.6 magnitude earthquake, about 133 kilometers east-southeast of Antofagasta, Chile, and a 5.1 magnitude earthquake, 56 kilometers south-southeast of Nikoloski, Alaska. So there's been several actual earthquakes in Alaska. These could be foreshocks to a larger earthquake, because there's been about 4 in the last 24 hours. So maybe if you want to see if there could be a larger earthquake in the next 24 to 48 hours. And speaking of earthquake preparedness, in LA Times recently, they showed that California is now pushing a bill through that they can now retrofit buildings in anticipation of larger seismic activity from ever-growing concern about the big one coming to that area. And also, ever since over the summer, where the New Yorker magazine highlighted the big one off the Cascadia subduction zone on the Juan de Fuca plate off the Pacific Northwest coast, people have been quick to retrofit their homes and get ready for the big one in anticipation of that possible 9.0 plus earthquake. And that would cause a massive tsunami and an unfortunate a large loss of life, as well as catastrophic damage in that area. Now, on to other news. I don't know if you heard about this, but Russia, yes, missiles missed the Syrian targets, and they were shot from shot from the Caspian Sea. And where did they land? Oh, they land in Iran. Luckily, they land in a rural area of Iran. Yes, that literally came off the wire earlier today. So this is actually yesterday evening. So this is just one of many things going on in the area.
I did hear yesterday that one of our drone strikes hit a wedding, I believe, in Pakistan that killed 22 people.
Actually, that was in a Yemen airstrike.
Yemen, that's right, correct. Thank you.
Yemen,
yes.
No worries. And actually, that airstrike was by a military coalition led by Saudi Arabia. Actually, hit a house south of the capital on Wednesday, killing at least 23 people. Now, let's keep this in mind. There's been 1,000 civilians over the past 6 months that have been named in according to United Nations polling that has studied this. And on September 28th, coalition warplanes bombed wedding tents on Yemen's Red Sea coast, killing at least 70 people. So this is not the first time that a wedding has been blown up. And actually, this is actually how, if you want to know how radicalization occurs, go bomb someone's wedding where they're seeing the uniting of two families coming together. I don't care where you are on the planet. That's going to cause an unnecessary. Every action has an equal or opposite reaction. So that's going to exacerbate the very contentious radicalization of Islam in general. And people are like, oh, well, it's just ISIS, and they're doing this, and they're causing the radicalization. No, it's many different aspects or actions that the West is very part and privy to. And we have to be, again, going back to just a couple of days ago, like about 5 days ago, with the Kunduz, Afghanistan bombing of Doctors Without Borders hospital, killing dozens of people. This just shows that we have to be more aware, and especially in regards to our intelligence that we're gathering, geospatially speaking, when we're doing those flyovers, because that's how they get this intelligence. They see troop movements from satellite, and then they're given orders that this area, so there's radical factions here, and we need to go after them. So that's basically how that goes down. Now, in to other news, unfortunately, there's going to be more rain over the weekend in South Carolina, which has been absolutely decimated. Conservative estimates are now over $1 billion in damage from the floods that dumped over 35 inches of rain in eastern parts of South Carolina. Unfortunately, 2 also died.
I can't believe the flooding's still going on. It's been days we've been talking about this.
Well, the thing is that you had the flooding in the central part of the state, and so elevation goes down as you go down to the coast. So the runoff is going toward the coast now. So there's been a lot of dam failures, and they've been dumping several tons of rock to try to reinforce the dams and divert water flow as it goes in the form of runoff going down, because gravity is what dictates runoff when you have a lot of rainfall like that. So unfortunately, in regards to now the weather, climate change and stuff, coral reefs could be facing the worst ever bleaching, and this is subsequential due to the fact of a very strong El Nino that is still ongoing. And so the Great Barrier Reefs, like the ones in Australia, are going to be more affected by this. The barrier reefs in 2016 causing widespread bleaching, and this will be the third recorded global bleaching event, history so far. And this is proud to be one of the strongest El Ninos, and they're expecting a very severe rain season, possibly that could mudslides as well from this El Nino, because that's usually what happens in southern and central California, which would be a blessing, but also too much of a good thing in a short period of time from the fires that they had over the summer and up till now as well. Now, in regards to Game of Thrones, we were talking about consciousness earlier, and
Game of Thrones person of the day. Get ready, people.
It's not always an evil person. This gentleman, he used to be a lawyer. He was working against his own people. I'm talking about Gandhi. And you got to be the change that you want to see in the world, and that's really why Jonah and I do this. Is the show is this? You want to be the change that you want to see in the world.
Thank you, brother.
So exactly. So everyone, knowledge is power, and be conscious and aware of all your actions, because all your actions have positive or negative ramifications on your surrounding matrix.
Beautiful. I love that, brother. Thank you. Gandhi, the official Game of Thrones person of the day. What a great choice, Ryan. He is definitely someone who sits on the Game of Thrones, but pushes the Game of Thrones towards a positive direction as he did for his whole life. And we just definitely have the utmost respect for Gandhi. So I totally agree with that. And again, check out Ryan's blog at bellwetherpost.com. He also has his Twitter feed on starseedradio.com. And if you haven't checked out his website, please take a few minutes to check it out. He's always posting up new articles.
And updating the website as well. So
excellent. New website update. Thank you, Ryan, for always doing your due diligence and reporting and posting up articles. Check out his feed. He's always posting up articles all week long.
Thank you, Jenna. Yep.
Excellent. Have a great day. And with that, we're going to jump to our next guest of the show. He is a favorite of the show because he's involved with so many positive movements towards change for a sustainable future. We're talking about our very own Edward Twitchall Hall III. We first met Ted years back with the Occupy Wall Street movement, which has then shifted into many sustainable projects, many other amazing campaigns across the planet. So we're always happy to have Ted on the show because he's always updating us on all different movements that everyone listening can take a part in. We're talking from indigenous grandmothers to treaties to sustainable movements to even the Agenda 21 UN Council, that he went to. I believe it was Brazil, where they had the last summit. I mean, just all over the place. Ted is involved and if it's positive change, he wants to take part in it. So with that, Ted, thanks for coming on the show. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Jonah. Thank you for having me again. How are you?
Doing awesome. I'm headed up to see my grandfather today for his 90th. And
Yeah, I heard.
what an amazing birthday, huh? 90 years old. I could only hope and be blessed to live that long. What a great long life. And real excited. Going to see the family tonight. So I know you have your new family started too as well. So I hope everyone on your side of the country is doing well as up in the New York area. And you guys are having a blessed, amazing summer. We're going into fall now and winter soon. So lots of things happening, Ted, but let's get started with give us some updates. How have things been? What are some new projects that you've been working on? And give us just an all-around update on how things have been going for you.
So the Bretton Woods gathering that I was sharing in weeks prior, that has finally wrapped up, and now it's looking like the next steps are unfolding. It's sort of like the clearing, I'd say, for a local movement of new solutions to kind of find a stronghold of like a positive impact at a state level. So Bretton Woods 4 was this call to action where the IMF Bank was started, and it was over in New Hampshire, and they asked me to coordinate the online input in New York City's event. And so we had hours over at the Bitcoin Center of New York City. And so that is going to continue to develop, where hopefully we can start putting together and sharing this common sense bill with other Americans where we're at in New York, and for you all to also find out about it. This common sense bill is essentially a framework to save each state from the Fed. And I think that when more of the right people learn about it, there's a lot of people who are active in exposing how the Federal Reserve System is the core of corruption in our country. It's like the lobbyists are a huge piece and corporations are a whole piece, but the established root of the whole corruption is that we've lost our control of our currency as a nation. And so this is one way to do it at a state level, is this common sense bill of Bretton Woods 4. So this is something really, the way that the main organizers out in New Hampshire did this is that they're really trying to integrate local economies as they build this movement to pass the common sense bill in New Hampshire. So a lot of us can help support them and start to bring together, to form and to solidify our own communities in each state that are, active people who are doing actually the community building and the local food system building, and who would benefit from having a state that had its money freed up from the Fed. And just to put it in perspective, that New Hampshire, if it went back to a publicly chartered bank system instead of a private bank for all of its state works, it would save over $77 million a year, and that it could reinvest in its state just from no longer having to pay interest on loans that it could otherwise give to itself.
When you talk about the Bretton Woods event, I just want to back up a little bit, Ted, because some of the listeners may not be fully aware of what that is. Can you give just a little, brief summary of what happened there and who was there? Gandhi's grandson, Martin Luther King, just to give the people a little perspective on how important this event you just talked about is.
Yeah, the faith keeper of the Mohawk Longhouse was doing the opening and closing ceremonies. Stuart Weeks, who's the primary organizer, has Mayflower families, major Mayflower families that have just stayed in this area, and he's been keeping Thoreau and Emerson's land
open for people to learn what America's real tradition is, which is enlightenment. So the transcendentalism, enlightenment, like sort of tradition keepers were the ones who saw we need to do this. And Arun Gandhi, Gandhi's grandson, Dennis Kucinich, who has worked a lot with Ron Paul on auditing the Fed. The director of the Center for Public Finance, like the reason that we even have a movement for federal credit unions, the list is very long, and it was the location again is really significant. There's actually Council on Foreign Relations documents that like calling for another Bretton Woods. We need another gathering to decide a new global currency. And these people came together as citizens and said, we're going to come together and take back our banks state by state. And it took them years of organizing, and now I feel that something is starting to come together in terms of this cycle or this season in America that we know that we don't want the Trans-Pacific Partnership and these huge trade deals like corporate-led. We don't want them to be led by corporations. And that it's so strong that like you have Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders agreeing that we can't have the Trans-Pacific Partnership. So it's kind of like there's no time to lose. We can totally put the nail in the coffin of the Trans-Pacific Partnership as a country, just with the 2016 election. But in the same sort of, national fervor of like people who care about the future of our country, besides that fact, we don't want the TPP. Let's say no. We can also say yes to, we want citizen-controlled banking, and that can happen state by state. And that's a really strong marker of all future candidates. Like, are they really going to spread that information, or are they really going to make it real? Because then it's not about words. It's really about, are any of these candidates, do they give a damn? And of course, the wars and unsustainability. But we can stop the TPP this year, and we could have at least one state reclaiming its public charter of its bank, and then that means we don't have to protest that much. We can just like do it, and also come together and build local economies all at the same time.
That's amazing, and I just want people really to soak in the information you just said, because the Trans-Pacific Partnership, just to rehash that, Ted, we've been talking about this for years, literally, is a global corporate takeover of the world's resources, basically. It is insane. It's just every word you could think of bad is in the Trans-Pacific Partnership. They're claiming the lakes, the rivers, the fish, the animals. I mean, it's ludicrous what they're even attempting to do. And the fact that they've gotten so far is even more important of why people really need to learn about it. Do your research, get involved, make some phone calls, send some emails, take action, and spread awareness about the TPP. We've been talking about it, like we said, for years on the show. I also, Ted, wanted to mention, we did a whole show yesterday on gold and a new gold-backed currency exchange that's being launched. Now, this is very exciting news. I just found out about a few weeks ago, and I've looked into it, and I had on Anthem Blancard, who's CEO of AnthemVault.com, a big bullion dealer, and ran this company past him, and he was very impressed with what they've done. So this is exciting to see other systems emerging around the world, like a gold-backed currency system. This is why one of the reasons we went in and got Gaddafi in Libya. He was just about to launch the gold-backed dinar, which was going to replace the U.S. Fiat currency dollar, which is worth nothing. So when we see systems like this coming out, it's very exciting. I literally, when I shake this money, that's a 24-karat gold, 99.9 bullion, tenth of a gram money bill. It's unbelievable. When I show this to people, it's like the golden Willy Wonka ticket. It's amazing. When I got it in the mail, I was like, oh my God, this is real and it's happening. And people could check out starseedmoney.com. You could register for a free account to get involved. It's pretty cool. But anyways, it's great and amazing to see systems like this really coming out. So if the people can keep spreading the awareness and pushing forward and making some noise and just talking to your neighbors and family and friends about this and about the solutions, we're really going to make some change. And I think we are, Ted. I think over the last couple of years, some people are really waking up. And when you see systems like this gold currency system and people coming forward and coming together for Brentwoods, you know things are on the horizon for change. And I think we all feel that. We just got to keep pushing, and then just sit back, don't push, and allow the abundance to come in. And I think that's where we're at right now. So hang on right there. When we get back, I want to talk a little bit more about the TPP and how people can get involved, Ted. And then I want to go a little bit more into the Native American and Indigenous treaties and projects and stuff that we're working on as well. So hold on right there. You're listening to Star.
Visualize an infinite hologram of unconditional love above your head. This is a holographic sphere with the flower of life pattern infinitely expanding inwardly to infinity.
The all-new Sacred Geometry Shop has arrived, featuring 8 of the world's most renowned sacred geometry and visionary artists. The mission of SGS is to embed sacred geometry art, frequencies, and equations into all conventional products in order to raise the vibration and help heal one's own individual life. Products include art, canvas prints, skateboards, Galaxy and iPhone cases, clothing, hats, jewelry, home decor, yoga mats, and a new sacred geometry skincare line. Enter the word STARSEED for an additional 25% discount. Log on today to sacredgeometryshop.com and feel the vibration.
I'm not looking for a friend. I'm looking for a Jedi Master.
Jedi Master? Yoda. You seek Yoda.
Yoda.
Clear your mind of questions. You must unlearn what you have learned. Jedi's dream flows from the Force. That is the way of things. For my ally is Force, and the powerful planet is. Its energy surrounds us.
This show, you're listening to Star Seed Radio, and I am definitely planting trees on the spaceship Earth.
Yeah.
So is our guest, Edward Twitchall Hall III. He is definitely planting trees and seeding many things across this nation for sustainable change. Ted, we talked about the Brentwood event, which is an amazing event. We talked about the TPP a little bit. I want to also, before we get into some more topics of Native Americans and some other initiatives that you're involved in, let's give the listeners a little bit more background on the TPP, if you would, a little brief history and how people can get involved to make change to direct it. What can people do? And maybe give us some sites and some references so some of the listeners can learn how important and what is the TPP.
Yeah, so as far as I can go back in the research that I've done, the earliest dialogues on the TPP were in 2001. And the Trans-Pacific Partnership is a part of 3 very large secret trade schemes that have been in negotiation for several years behind closed doors with international leadership and mainly corporations. And there's a very good video. There's a very good video with at WikiLeaks that explains sort of the contemporary situation of these trade deals, but the TPP is one of 3, but it's the largest. And the Trans-Pacific Partnership is between about, I think it's 11 countries right now, like Japan and United States, Mexico, Chile, Peru, Canada, and even more. I think South Korea. About 40% of the world's GDP, which is like the amount of total productivity, states less sovereign than any one of these 600 corporations. So that's why it is this, like, it's a total abomination. It is a complete, it makes the creation of the Fed look like not even that big of a deal. But these people are still, the negotiations have finished, but it's now up to Congress in America, and we are in a perfect position to totally shut it down. For the last 3 years straight, it's just been knocked out by regular people getting the word out face to face with friends.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Ted. And when we go into the Native American area or field of treaties and initiatives, I want to really drill home for the listeners out there. Personally, I feel that through all of this, the TPP, through all these different trade deals, to let them know, really drill home, the Native American people of this land, America, have never once in 400 years ever been given a voice or represented in Washington, D.C. Just to think about that for a minute, because with all the Native American people that I've talked to and you've talked to, Ted, I mean, that in itself is just a travesty that we came here literally, purposely gave smallpox and murdered and conquered land, and then did the Trail of Tears and amongst many, many other things to the Native Americans of this country. So people really need to just understand that when we talk about these next couple projects and initiatives that you're involved in, and also, some that I'm involved in, working with the Cherokee to bring sustainable housing and things like that. Think about the Native American people deserve this type of technology, deserve this type of respect, deserve this type of attention that you have been working so hard, that I've been working so hard, working with different nations across this country, because the Native American people, in my eyes, out of many Native American tribes across this planet, have really been put down and trampled the most out of many people, like even going back to World War II with the Nazis and stuff like that. Stalin, when you talk about the Native Americans, it's like an untold story. It's not told in the history books. It's not talked about in Washington. In fact, they're not even represented in Washington. So I want to go into a little bit now that people understand, my background and my stance on the whole situation is when we talk about bringing new free energy technologies, I want to bring them to the tribal lands first. When we're talking about new gold-backed systems, bring it to the tribal lands first because they deserve it first. That's what I'm an advocate for, is to help the bottom by starting at the top. That's the gap we have to bridge. We have to start at the top to help the bottom, start at the bottom to bridge the top together. Now, that being said, I know you're involved with several different indigenous projects and tribes. One of the most important ones I want to bring up first is the 400-year treaty. If you would, give us a background on that, Ted, a little bit history, and then where you're at today with that initiative supporting the original treaty that the Native Americans had, one of the first treaties in this country.
Yeah, that is the Two-Row Wampum Belt Treaty. And that treaty is literally like the declaration of welcome. And because there's this renaissance of understanding and care. I'm here with our baby right now. She's 17 days old. And while I share this little bit with you, so just pardon us. But so this treaty is basically like the base of how we can sustain
I hear the babies.
Steps. Yeah. It's how we can sustain these steps. And if we don't honor those treaties and that protocol, a lot of this revival actually, because it's so deep, these wounds, that we can actually create another set of kind of extra bad protocol. And So this treaty is the reason that we have our welcome, and it, with a lot of these other nations, unfortunately, they don't have their traditional government. And the nations that gave us this treaty are actually still have their traditional government. And in order to work with other nations that, again, they've lost their, not lost, but they've become corrupted by the United States, to put it just frankly and kind of legally. The United States has gone into every single native nation and forced the twisted American interpretation of democracy onto them in order to have any type of political relationship besides total annihilation. But the Haudenosaunee, the Iroquois, they were the ones who extended the 2-row, and that the 2-row says that it was the will of God that we go down the river of life together, united by peace and friendship forever. And without that treaty, there's no real political relationship that can be maintained. And it's from that relationship that we can actually work with other nations like the Lakota, like the Dene, like the Hopi. Every single nation outside of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, they need to be dealt with through this treaty. It's kind of like saying, if we want to pass a law in our town, we need to look at the Constitution. If the 2-row is like the Constitution of our relationship to all of the natives. And that treaty is 403 years old now, and I was part of the honoring of its, the revival of it 3 years ago, which the Secretary General of the UN spoke at length about with Obama as well. And our whole message was about the water and about keeping this peace maintained. And through that work, I found out actually that the obvious fact is that the Haudenosaunee have their traditional government, and it's recognized by the United States. So they don't have the Bureau of Indian Affairs. They have the Haudenosaunee Confederacy that has been around for over 1,000 years, 1,400 at least. And because they have that, they're actually the only native nations that we can speak to, that we can develop with any political systems. And they're like a real gatekeeper for any other type of relations, to have it be a good, solid foundation. Because when we really look at this legacy of genocide on America, instead of paralyzing us or turning us into another, sort of like political game of prejudice or like guilt politics, we do really need to realize that we're only this far with our legacy of slavery. There's still like such deep remnants of slavery and existing very blatant white supremacy, like killing people with impunity who are black. And we're only just starting to deal with something that's so much deeper and so much more horrifying that it literally inspired. It inspired the Holocaust. Like, it's not like, oh, America is some new brand of Nazis. Like, sometimes I even think that, like, what the hell are we? Like, is this really messed up? No. You look at Hitler, and Hitler was inspired by the United States and how we treated the natives. He designed the entire Holocaust after what happened with the natives. Every single native reservation is a prisoner of war camp with a number. And in 1970, it went from the Department of Defense to the Department of the Interior, which my family was around working with indigenous people at that time. So, like, the depth.
Wow, I had no idea about that. That's some history that I'm...
Yeah, you can find, if you look up Hitler and reservations in Native America or Native Americans, it should pop up, and you'll see there's quotes of Hitler where he talks about we need to learn, all of these lessons that America has given the world about how to genocide. And with every other nation, I've realized, and it's going to take a really deep spiritual work first, and that can be even just developing friendships is like the biggest step. That's a really big step for anybody to take with any Native people, and just to meet them honestly as human beings, and just to get to know them, and then to start to understand like the depths of actually there's a law that's on this land, and the two-row is kind of the starting point for understanding that protocol.
That's definitely some new information that I've never heard the history of, so thank you for sharing that. And this definitely goes back to what I said previous, which is the importance of people really understanding how badly the Native American people really got it, and how badly our ancestors really gave it to them, and how badly they really need our help, because some of the reservations even to this day still don't even have power lines run to them. Like the Lakota in Nevada, they power 90% of Las Vegas with their coal mines, but yet the Lakota reservations there, some of them don't even still have power because the power companies won't run the power lines, but yet they're using their coal from their reservation to power Vegas. I mean, it's just insane. It's insane. And people, really just digest this information so, you can learn and educate yourself and hopefully have that spark like Ted did and I did to really go out of our way to do what we can to raise awareness, which is why we're talking about, and help, like Ted and I have been doing, to help bring the Native American healing back, to the nations through us being what just you said, being the light in the world, being the change you want to see, going to them and having a friendship, like you said, having a relationship with them, because that is the utmost important thing in this world, is having that bond, having that relationship with someone. And that is what the Native Americans, they were grounded on, the respect for nature, the respect for this planet, the respect for each other, even in war times, the respect that they had for each other. I mean, there's a whole philosophy and culture that was almost eradicated that was just simply beautiful. How they lived in one with the planet, how they treated the planet. I mean, that's really where we have to go back to. So when you talk about sustainability and you talk about, the earth and wanting to be a supporter of the earth, it starts with the support of the people who have been living that way for thousands of years. It starts with the Native Americans. It starts with the elders. It starts with the tribes around the planet that have been living this way. Those are our greatest teachers. And that is why it's so important to really get people awakened to the Native American traditions, the Native American ceremonies, and really get involved with helping and be a voice for them, because they've lost their voice since Columbus came over, really. So it's very, very important for people to understand how important the Native American traditions are to keep, to learn from, and to pass on from the generation to the next generations. As they say, the next 7 generations, that is how they think. That is how we need to start thinking. And it's amazing that the work you're doing, brother, so thank you. And we have about 10 minutes left, Ted. If you would, go into some other initiatives that you're also involved with the Native Americans, if you would, please.
Yeah, sure. So there's a number of different groups and different nations that I've worked with. One is the Lakota, and my friend Stephanie Yarrow, Peter Yarrow's daughter, she's an amazing musician, along with Lila June Johnson. She's a Dene or Navajo. They have had this gathering at the Black Hills called the Unity Concert. There's amazing musicians, and the Black Hills are where it's a sacred site for the Lakota, where White Buffalo Cattlemen gave them the peace pipe and the bundle and their tradition. And that is a really a very beautiful and important gathering. It has a lot of friction because that's where Quetzal Pipeline was proposed to go. And I try to use that language with like the TPP and the XL Pipeline. Like, we need to assert our will and to say what we do, say what we're gonna do, and also say what needs to happen. And like, that was proposed. That proposal of the Quetzal Pipeline is an embarrassment for the world. And the TPP, that's an embarrassment for all of those politicians involved. It's not going to happen. We can't allow it. The other things that a really important resource that I'd recommend people look up is something called the Vision of Race Unity. If you look up the Vision of Race Unity, America's Greatest Challenge, it's the high publication from 1991, and it's a really, it gives a huge amount of just spiritually infused and like experientially gained understanding on this very, like, the most important issue for America, which is like our freedom from prejudice and what that will do for our country and the world. And I think it's really helpful. It's a very helpful guide, the Vision of Race Unity, America's Greatest Challenge. And I have that on my own blog with sort of for visually impaired. It has like an audio version too, where my blog is called globalpublicservant.net, aglobalpublicservant.net.
I love it. Great name. Absolutely.
Thanks, man. Yeah. It was inspired by the Arab Spring and some of the confusion happening there, and it was a little before Occupy that I started that. It was a couple months before Occupy. And I don't know, it might be a book or something at some point, but who knows? I'm not sure. But yeah, the 2 row, we're meeting up with the Hawaiian group that's been actually doing a traditional voyage from Hawaii since a year and a half ago to New York. This next year is going to be huge. So in about August next year, we should keep talking about that, because that's when we have a really it's an unprecedented moment in these relations, where we're building up. Me as a non-indigenous like person on this continent, who's immigrant like ancestry, is building, and we're building up the relationships with not just the Haudenosaunee, but a very far removed indigenous group from Hawaii. So this is kind of gives, like a really wide range about like opening the door for respected relations, like relations that are respected within indigenous law, not just American law. So that's going to be huge next year.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's super exciting. Hokulea, HOKULEA, hokulea.org. But you can follow like what we're up to. It's 2row.us, TWOROW.us. And like that's every single year. It's totally open for everybody. It's everybody's treaty. This is a treaty for all people who are not from this continent and everybody who is.
That's what's up. Excellent, Ted. Thank you so much. And thank you again for coming on the show. You're always bringing so much amazing information and on topics that really hit home for me. I mean, once I really learned about the true history of the Native Americans in this country, the true history about the falsification of all the just how this whole system's set up, with the actual states being corporations, not independent states like we were told, and Columbus discovered America. Meanwhile, we know they've been trading here for hundreds, if not thousands of years back. All this just unjustifiable BS that we've been fed, really. And learning the real truth has really, helped me understand and then navigate my ability to help as much as I can with the Native Americans and to bring sustainable practices and things like that, to the Native American people. So, it's been a great awakening process in myself to really learn and relearn the real history and education behind our brothers and sisters of North America, the Native Americans, and the amazing just way they live and they have lived for thousands of years on this country. So to be part of that and help bring back that ancient knowledge and wisdom is truly, truly amazing to be part of. So I'm sure you feel the same way, and you're on the same mindset of the karmic response to putting out and then receiving that back. We push, and then it's time to allow the abundance in, and I think that's where we're at right now. And do what you can to raise awareness, because it's all we can do is use our mouth, but our mouth is so.
Visualize an infinite hologram of unconditional love above your head. This is a holographic sphere with the flower of life pattern infinitely expanding inwardly to infinity.
The all-new Sacred Geometry Shop has arrived, featuring 8 of the world's most renowned sacred geometry and visionary artists. The mission of SGS is to embed sacred geometry art, frequencies, and equations into all conventional products in order to raise the vibration and help heal one's own individual life. Products include art, canvas prints, skateboards, Galaxy and iPhone cases, clothing, hats, jewelry, home decor, yoga mats, and a new sacred geometry skincare line. Enter the word STARSEED for an additional 25% discount. Log on today to sacredgeometryshop.com and feel the vibration.
The Coral Bay Domain is an exclusive community for people with an environmental consciousness and self-sustaining spirit. It will be the Caribbean's first totally green and off-the-grid residential development. This development showcases doing more with less and energy freedom. The community is located in Coral Bay on the island of St. John in the Virgin Islands. It will consist of 16 residential units in 8 duplexes. Each unit is a geodesic dome with electricity supplied by a vertical wind generator for each unit and a shared solar array. Please visit www.domain-llc.com for more information.
Portal to Ascension is bringing forth groundbreaking information and awareness from the world's top visionaries, scientists, speakers, authors, doctors, and spiritual leaders that are assisting humanity in unlocking their true consciousness. We explore and pioneer cutting-edge information from globally renowned leaders on conscious topics through our integrated multimedia platform for online and live events. These events are designed to empower and increase awareness for all of humanity, so we may collectively shift into a paradigm based on unity, transparency, and truth. We explore a wide variety of consciousness relating to self-empowerment, sacred sound and vibration, UFO disclosure, ET awareness, true ancient history, quantum mechanics, metaphysics, conscious living, and spirituality. Our online platform is designed to assist you in expanding and awakening your consciousness. The Portal to Ascension website can take you front row seat live to the educators, teachers, and wisdom keepers themselves. Log on now